You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention Podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Adventurous Reinvention Podcast. I'm so excited to share this episode with you. We are about to enter one of my favorite seasons of the year. It is the time when we open up our once-a-year program, the Adventurous Reinvention Experience. Now, if you don't know what that program is and you want to learn more, you can go to shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE. And that will give you so much more information about the program, what's included, what's involved, all of the things. And if you want to be first to hear about when we open up spots to this program, because they are limited, we only have 36 spots for our summer cohort of this for 2026. That will put you at the front of the line. Now, this program will be opening up at the end of the month. For my existing clients, you guys get to hear about it first. You will get an email from me probably like March 30th, I think is the day we officially open it up. And then everyone else on the wait list, you get first dibs after that. So that will open up for most other people that aren't existing clients of our, Backpacking Badass program. You'll hear about it in early April, like I think April 6th is when it opens up to the wait list. So you're going to want to be on the wait list if you're interested in joining the program, because there will be limited spots, as I mentioned. And today I wanted to give you a little behind the scenes peek into what this experience is actually like, particularly the backpacking trip part of this experience. Now, if you don't know, the Adventurous Reinvention Experience, that program, it's really composed of like 3 core components. So the first component of it is outdoor mentorship. Like all of it, anything with She Dreams of Alpine in our programs always has an element of outdoor mentorship. And we teach you real skills, systems to feel confident and capable in the backcountry. And in this instant, we're really applying it to a very specific trip that you get to sign up for. And then the second element is reinvention coaching. So what this is really about, it's about taking the summer to intentionally explore the next version or chapter of your life and spend time asking those bigger questions about what you want more of, what you're ready to leave behind, and who you want to become next, what possibility you might want to step into. And this part of the experience is really about claiming new possibilities for yourself and having the support to actually step into those new possibilities. And I guide you through that with live weekly coaching throughout the summer. We kickstart in May. And then the third element of this program is we bring all of that work together, the outdoor mentorship, the reinvention coaching, with a big backpacking adventure in the mountains, where you get to experience what it feels like to actually live that growth in real life alongside other women with you. And it basically becomes an embodiment of the work that we do together all summer, where you're trusting yourself, you're doing hard things, you're stepping into that next version of yourself. And on top of that, it's also just really fun and wild, and it's an unforgettable adventure. We always host our adventures in the Eastern Sierras, in the big mountains, so you really get to experience that and experience what those mountains have to offer, and that is in California. Now, for the coaching part of the experience, we we do that all together as a big group. This year, there will be 36 spots, but the in-person adventures, you get to sign up specifically for which one you want to join. And there's going to be 3 groups this year. There's a beginner group, a beginner mediate group, and an intermediate group. Now, in this episode, Kellie and I sat down fresh off the trail after finishing our 2025 intermediate group trip last year in the Eastern Sierras, and we recorded a recap while everything was still fresh in our minds so that we could share it with you. We talked about the route that we hiked, the lakes that we swam in, the moments that challenged people the most, the conversations that made this group of women go from internet strangers to adventure friends in just a few days. And we recapped the whole thing in kind of this behind the scenes episode. So if you've ever wondered what the Adventurous Reinvention Experience is really like, this episode will definitely give you a taste. And don't forget, if you want to learn more about this program and be first in line when enrollment opens at the end of the month, make sure to join the waitlist at shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE. All right, now I'm going to just kickstart this episode again. Remember, it was actually recorded in my van, so the audio might not be as great as usual, but it's a behind the scenes from last year, 2025, and I hope you enjoy. Hello. Welcome back to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I am here with my employee, Kellie.
Hello.
And we're sitting in my van right now. We decided to do a little recap of what we've been doing the past, 2 weeks. So just to rewind a little bit, I have been out in the Eastern Sierras for about 2.5 weeks. This is something that I do every year. I've been doing it for the last 3 years. We do our Adventurous Reinvention Experience program in the summer. And so that usually kicks off in May, and we have about 4 months of coaching together, and it also ends in an in-person backpacking retreat. So that is what we've been on here in the Sierras. And we have a beginner group and an intermediate group, and Kellie usually joins me for the intermediate group trip. And we thought we would just pop in here and do a little bit of a recap of that experience while it's fresh on our minds. And, she flies back home today. And so we thought we'd just do a quick recap. And that way you can get a taste of what this experience is like, especially our in-person retreat part of the experience, and gives you a little behind the scenes of this year's trip and kind of what went down. So yeah, maybe we'll just start off with itinerary stuff.
Yes, it was an epic trip this year. It was like a lake tour for the intermediates, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we had 5 days, 4 nights with our intermediate group trip. We always like to start with we call it a day 0, but basically it's an I always suck at this word. Acclimatization. Every time I say it, I'm like, oh gosh, don't mess it up, but I just messed it up. Acclimatization day. And this year, both of our trips were based out of Mammoth Lakes, California, because we were doing them both in the Eastern Sierras. Sometimes in the past, we've done them out of Lone Pine or Bishop, but we had our clients meet us at a group campground in Mammoth, and our first day is kind of we call it a shakedown day in the nicest way possible. We get to meet everyone and we just kind of go over hazards and what to expect. I mean, even though they're very aware because we've been talking about it all summer, but just going over it one last time. And then we do a gear shakedown,
where we politely shave weight and wrestle some of the items, comfort items or doubles. A lot of people bring extra clothing, so we help people optimize their packs. So that part's always kind of funny because it always feels like we're slightly I don't want to say bullies, because we just have to have conversations with people. I'm like, oh, you may not need this, or you could double up on this. And it's really funny to watch the progression of somebody really wanting to take something and then weighing the pack, and they immediately are like, yeah, I don't need that.
I don't need it. Yeah. Yeah, no, and it also varies from trip to trip. Our beginner group trip, they're definitely learning a lot more. So for them, it's oh, okay, I didn't realize like this was maybe too much, or I'm doubled up here. So it's like really looking for those opportunities. Our intermediate group tends to be, not always, like sometimes people are newer to backpacking in that group, but they are just like very ready for the challenge.
Typically more dialed in, or they have already set up their backpacking systems and have used them on multiple trips before. So they have more expectations on what they like and what they take out and what works for them.
Exactly. And so sometimes the conversation is like, well, your pack is this weight. If you would like to optimize it, these are the things that I would like remove.
Or you don't need
make the
two
choice
sun
if you have experience. Like you can make the choice to carry this weight into the backcountry if you want. But yeah, and I think like a lot of that difference too is like a lot of people are coming from areas that don't use bear cans, and bear cans weigh quite a bit, so that's usually quite a shocking discovery.
Yeah, like an extra 2 to 3 pounds.
Yeah.
Or convincing somebody that it's okay to be stinky in front of a group. Like, you don't need 2 sun shirts. We'll jump in the lakes.
There was one client we had this year. You'll know if she's listening, she'll know who she is. Well, I won't call her out here. But I'm going to say, like, the funny thing that she brought. She was like, oh, can you look through my stuff? I'd like to look at things to remove. I was like, sure. And we were going through her stuff, and she had mouthwash. And I was like, girl, you don't need mouthwash. And then I was like, but if you want to bring it, you can. Like, I mean, like, she has done the JMT before. Yeah. Like, I knew, like, she could handle the weight, but I was like, if you were looking for optimizations, this is something I literally have never brought on a backpacking trip.
Yeah.
But it was funny. So she took it out, but then in the backcountry, I saw her with it, and I was like, oh, you decided last minute. And she had no regrets. She liked having her mouthwash, so that was fine. But like we do it all in good fun and more just like as a learning experience. And also the other reason we do it is just to make sure everybody has everything that they need, because in travel, sometimes you can accidentally leave something behind super easily. Like our beginner group trip, there were several people that forgot to pack a spork and like bowls or like a down jacket. So it just gives us one last chance while we're in town to like be able to grab things before we go out into the backcountry.
Yeah, I love the shakedowns and the chance to like get used to the altitude. You know, I come from sea level in the Midwest, so it's so nice even for me.
Yeah.
And same thing with all the other clients. We had a lot of people coming from out east this year. Although we did agree we need to bring like Q-tips with Vaseline for our poor little noses. It's very dry out here if you're coming west from the east.
Yeah, it can definitely be drier up here. So that's our day 0. And then everyone, gets some food and we camp at like a slightly lower elevation and altitude, which really helps. Some of our beginner group trip, I think, they struggled the most this year with altitude sickness. Not bad, but we had one woman who had pretty bad altitude sickness, and that's the first time that we've had that this year. Everyone else just had like the kind of mild symptoms that are very normal to have, like a mild headache that went away after a while, and some restless sleeping. Our intermediate group trip this year, like, we didn't have anybody that really had altitude sickness. No. And most of them actually came like a couple days even earlier. Went to like Yosemite. I think like a group of women ended up meeting up early together and going to Yosemite, and that helped.
Yeah.
So that was great. But we do that day because sometimes people will not give themselves the acclimatization day if we don't build it in. And it's really important to have that kind of lower level. So that was our day 0, and it kind of looks the same for both of our trips. But then the rest of our trip, for the intermediate group, we did 5 days and 4 nights. So our first day, it was probably one of our tougher days because it was more uphill.
It was very challenging. Yeah. It was 5 miles and about 2,500 feet of gain. And most of it was like switchbacks, or all of it was hiking uphill. And it was pretty exposed at the beginning, but it was gorgeous.
Exposed meaning like no
shade.
No shade.
And I remember this was a different trailhead than we've done the past 2 years. past 2 years, we've driven 40 or 50 minutes up a mountain. And I remember we were driving into our first day of hiking this year, and we were driving down a mountain, and like we went to a lake. We were still in service, and I thought, oh no, we're gonna have to hike up the whole mountain. And we did, but people were really, really strong. I mean, it didn't take that long for us to get it done, I don't feel like.
And I definitely think that's typically what we find with our intermediate groups is like they show up all summer really dedicated to the training. Like we create training plans for both groups at the beginning of the summer. But I think the intermediate group goes in with knowing like this is like I did sign up for more of the physical challenge.
Yes.
And like I want to make sure I'm ready for it. And everyone did, so well, even with that uphill day.
And we had all age groups, too. Yes. I think our youngest person was 23 on the intermediate group
Which
this
is
year.
quite young. We don't usually have people that young on our trips, but occasionally we do.
And then our oldest client was 73. And then we had ages all in between there, all kinds of lifestyles, moms, childless women, different careers, and all ages, like 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We had somebody from like every decade, essentially. So that was really cool to see everybody mingle so well, which we'll talk about belonging and whatnot later.
Yeah. No, I always love the groups, so mix in our groups. And so yeah, day one was basically just uphill. We had to get into the mountains. So that's what, sometimes in order to get the reward, you have to go and hike into it.
We were standing at the bottom, and I thought, surely we won't have to hike to the top of that mountain.
Oh,
we'll cut through. Did. Yes, we did. We hiked to the top of a mountain, and Horsetail Falls was huge. It was like the trailhead that we started at was kind of at the bottom of a lake system where all these alpine lakes...
Near June Lake, if anybody's familiar.
Were feeding into each other, and then there was just this huge, like, cascading waterfall that was all these different levels. And dams on a fault line, but it was just a gorgeous hike up.
Yeah, for anybody who's curious, we started at...
Rush Creek
Trailhead. And then we were kind of TBD. A lot of times I've hiked all over the Eastern Sierras, but there are still parts that I have like not done. And this particular entrance was a trailhead I had not hiked in before. So this to day one section was new to me. So our camp was a little bit TBD. We were either going to camp at Gem Lake. So we kind of went above, like Kellie mentioned, 2 lakes, Agnew Lake and then Gem Lake, that are part of this like dam system that they had out there. And the top one was called Wall Lake, which we'll talk about for day 2. But we were thinking we'd camp at Gem Lake, but we ultimately actually decided to go a tiny bit further past the Gem Lake campgrounds or spots that looked good for groups, and camped at Rush Creek. Like there was it ended up, we weren't sure, sometimes when you're like in the Sierras, I know different places are different. Sometimes you have to like pick a campsite and that's where you stay because it's where your reservation is. But in the Sierras, like you kind of have a little bit more flexibility and you can kind of pick what feels best. And we were looking at the map. We're like, well, there's a creek here, but it could be horrible.
Yeah. Because
you never know. And so we did like a bit of a scouting mission, sort of, where half the group went up and scouted out those who had more energy. Because they were like, well, worst case scenario. It was like a mile away from where we were hanging out. We were like, well, either we'll camp here at this lake or we'll go a mile extra to this creek if it looks good. And so those group of women went and scouted out the Rush Creek, and it ended up being lovely.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, fantastic. And so that's right above Gem Lake. So that was our first night, was at that like rushing creek.
Yeah, and I think one of the groups went out with the scouting group with one of the guides, and Allison and I were back with some of the other clients at Gem Lake. And when we got to Rush Creek, the scouting group was already like swimming in the water. Yeah. They were like mermaids on a rock, and So everybody was already enjoying the water because we really love camping by water features. But that was a beautiful campsite. We had a lot of fun there.
Yeah. And like on the topic of guides, like usually for these trips we have like for the beginner trip, it was just 2 guides. So it was myself, and we have a partner out here in the Eastern Sierras that helps us hook us up with permits and, you know, all the things that we need to be compliant out here in the Sierras. And our partner guide's name was Sonia. And so she went on that scouting mission, but we kind of like ebb and flow between how we like split up in the group. It just depends on the day. But yeah, Sonia's group, it was perfect because Sonia's like a big water person too. She got to take a dip and everything.
Yeah, it's nice having the 3 guides because we can really set different paces, you know, as long as the clients are in between the front guide and the back guide, and all the guides are stopping at junctions, and
it really go different paces and everything.
Yeah, and it gives people an opportunity to switch where they're at in the group if they want to like talk to different people or even just want to go a different speed than they've been going. And
we also switch up between days too. Yes. Like sometimes I'll take the front, Sonia would take the back. We typically had you stay in the middle this time.
I love the middle. And what's nice too is having the guides spread out through the whole group is that we do have people that enjoy the group aspect, but they also really value some of their solitude on the trail. And so it did give people an opportunity if they wanted to hike with a group and chat, or if they wanted a little downtime to themselves on the trail, they could give themselves a little space in between our guides. So that was always nice. You know, I think a lot of people will get into their worries later, but you can really hike your hike on our guided trips, even though they're guided. I don't think we're like the type of guides that are like, everybody's got to stick together. We need to just like make sure everybody is doing exactly as we say on these trips and doing everything our way. Like we meet people where they're at and in the scope of like keeping them safe and with like on track with the group.
Yeah, it just helps. Like a lot of people have anxiety around, especially like being too slow, and maybe not being able to keep up with the group aspect. But we really like, one of the reasons we have multiple guides is that we're able to usually accommodate like different paces.
Yeah.
There's like, you know, like we mentioned earlier, like the intermediate group is more of a challenge. So if you were to sign up for that experience and you were unsure if you would be like up for it, it's something we could always have a conversation on before you sign up for that trip. But all these women either knew already, they like were ready for it. And you kind of know, like when you have more experience, you can look at like miles and elevation gain and kind of either know, or you can have a conversation with me or somebody on my team and be like, do you think I could get ready for this, or I would be up for it? And we would be able to give you some good thoughts on that.
And some people's pace is affected by how many photos and videos they take, you know, like, so in the middle, a lot of my folks, I either get the people who don't want to stop, but maybe aren't at the pace of like the front sprinters, or people that are stopping a lot for photos and whatnot. And they're like ebbing and flowing in between the different paces. So it's always really fun.
And we do take group breaks throughout the day. That's something that we
do.
Lots
of breaks.
And usually we'll take like one longer break. We'll take like some short breaks throughout. And then like the whole group kind of catches up together. And then we'll take like a longer lunch break. But yeah, anyways, so that was day 1 at Rush Creek. And then day 2, we went from that Rush Creek campsite
to Thousand Island Lake.
Yeah, around Wall Lake. And anybody who's familiar with maybe the JMT, there is kind of like really close to the border of Yosemite and Inyo National Forest, there is Island Pass. So we went around Wall Lake, over Island Pass, and then down into Thousand Island Lake. And that day, honestly, was like 7.5 miles, maybe 7 miles.
Yep.
15-ish 100 feet of gain.
About that, yeah.
That day felt chill to me.
Yeah, we had one water crossing that was pretty simple.
Yeah.
And so folks got to get experience on how to do a safe water crossing.
Yeah, and it was just like, it was uphill a lot of the day, but it was like very chill uphill. So you could kind of just find a rhythm in it. The biggest plot twist to me of that day was on the map, wall is spelled Waugh Waugh Lake was empty. It looked huge on the map.
Like it was huge in person.
Huge, yeah. I was expecting it to be this giant water-filled lake.
But it was like a creek running through a dry lake bed.
Yeah. And we later, so all of us, like, I wrote in my notes app, why is Waugh Lake?
Why so empty?
Why so empty? Because I was so surprised by it. And I don't remember this. I don't remember seeing it on when Michael and I did the JMT, but maybe we did.
And it was, there were like 2 dams in this series of lakes that were at different elevations. And I think Waugh Lake was like the top one. Yeah. And we bumped into a ranger like days later.
Third day or something.
And so pro tip, if you're out and about and you have lots of questions, make a notes app on your phone titled Ranger Questions. So one of our clients and ambassadors, it was remembered to ask the ranger, Waugh Lake, why so empty? And they explained that these lakes are on a fault line, and so they had to use dams to control the water flow to prevent any catastrophic failure, or like if something were to happen and these fault lines moved, all these lakes would essentially cascade down into June Lake, where it's like civilization, right? It's not like the top of a mountain.
There's a little town there.
So it was a safety measure because these lakes are on the fault line and there's people at the bottom.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. I actually want to read a little bit more about it because that answers it a little bit, but I'm still like, somebody was saying they might even be draining all of them eventually.
I don't know.
Which I'm like curious to read more about. Anyways, don't take that for fact. I'm just like thinking about what I heard. So that was fascinating. The top of Island Pass was pretty. There was like
gorgeous, all
these like cute little, like tiny little lakes up there.
Yeah.
That we were all like, oh, if I could build my house, I would build it right here. Like kind of moments. And then from Island Pass, I also think Island Pass is kind of a funny pass. So anybody who's done the passes in the Eastern Sierras, they're usually quite like obvious. Like you get to the top and you're like, I'm at the top of a pass, and you can see over the other side into the next thing. And it's just very dramatic and feels very obvious. I feel like Island Pass is like, you get to the top and you're like, okay, well, like, I know I'm not going uphill anymore, but it's flat. And you're like, but supposedly I'm on a pass.
Yeah.
But it's like, it goes flat for a while. Mm-hmm. And then eventually it goes down. But you're kind of just, you don't really know exactly where the top point is.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit different. And then we had like a downhill hike into Thousand Island, which
gorgeous.
Is just
stunning.
Thousand Island Lake I knew was going to be
It's
beautiful.
So big. And then it lives up to the name. It had a bunch of tiny little islands in it. And some of the clients and I talked about swimming to some of them, but then we were like, there was this big rock slab essentially that met the water. So when people would go swimming, and of course it's freezing because it's an alpine lake, everybody would crawl up onto the rock and kind of had a lizard mode together. Mm-hmm. So there's 14 women that were like jumping into freezing water, getting out into the wind, and then laying out on like a sun-baked rock.
Exactly. Yeah, we did a lot of, this was like Kellie mentioned in the beginning, we did kind of a lakes tour.
Yeah,
we did a lot of alpine dips on this trip.
People even were swimming at Gem Lake during lunch.
Yeah, during lunch, taking a dip, even in the creek, taking a dip, at Thousand Island Lake, taking a dip. We had a lovely little group campground that was a little bit up the rocky like path away from the trail for our little site, and it was just beautiful. I think it's like Banner Peak is that main peak that is like right above the lake. Anyways, it's iconic. It's really beautiful. I've always wanted to camp there, but I've just never worked. It's never worked with my mileage being out there, so I've always just walked past it. So it was cool.
Yeah, it was a little windy, but
it was
tons of rocks you can use guy lines on.
Yeah, we had to definitely guy line our tents down instead of using stakes because also the ground was like really rocky. But that's very kind of typical for out here.
Yeah, and then for me, that was the night that like we started having deeper conversations with clients, or like, you know, I went off on an after dinner little walk with a few clients, and we talked about some really deep things. And so by day 2 of hiking, day 3 of being together, this is when the group, I noticed, started really opening up about the reinvention aspect of what we do in the program. And so that, you know, that's always very exciting for me. That's my favorite part, is to get vulnerable with clients.
Yeah, I love that too. That's what I think was, well, like kind of on the aspect of groups, I feel like this ties in well with something we were wanting to touch on in this episode, is we always talk about how like well our groups mesh together. And like people will always tell me like that. They're like, I didn't know what to expect coming on a trip with a group of random women. Like I didn't expect to get along with everyone, but like everyone's just so lovely. And I think the reason our groups end up doing so well together just as a whole, like holistically, no matter what walks of life or how old they are, is because the point, like when you come into this program, it's a very growth mindset oriented program, and we're doing work beyond just this backpacking trip. So we work through a curriculum called our Adventurous Reinvention, like coaching curriculum. And all summer long, everyone's kind of looking inward and like doing this growth work and thinking about things they want to step into. And I think that just puts everyone in a similar place and openness that is different from if you just signed up for a guided trip.
Yeah, and they're getting to know each other ahead of time too. And I love to use one of our ambassadors as an example, Heather. There was a conversation at Thousand Island Lakes that came up about Mormonism, and she's a Latter-day Saint. And so a lot of us had a lot of questions, and she even said, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And it was like a story time. Like once one person asked a question, we all kind of turned around and were listening to Heather. And she and I actually hike a lot together personally, and she's been on quite a few, like 3 or 4 retreats with us. And I like to use Heather and I as like an example of, on paper, you know, she's a Latter-day Saint, mother, grandmother. Yeah. And then me, I'm just like a crusty punk kid with like sometimes the mouth of a sailor. And we adore each other. Like, she has experiences and perspectives that I will likely never live through, which is why I love hanging out with her. And we have very different personalities and lifestyles, but love hiking together. And that was the whole group, right? Like, the more we got to know each other, people came from all kinds of careers and family dynamics, and we were just so adoring and loving to one another. And
we had like a bush pilot, an ex-bush pilot.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah,
like
a detective,
nurses,
teachers,
yes,
mothers, childless women. So, and like I said, people of all ages. There was even our youngest client the last day, which we can, I guess, skipping ahead. She asked all of us to give her 1 to 2 pieces of advice because she wanted to really embrace being around so many women from so many different generations.
Yeah.
And we all had amazing advice for her, which I was like,
she wrote it on her map, which was cute.
I was like, I need to take a picture of this because this is like good advice for all of us, you know?
So yeah, we really kind of started, I mean, after, it always takes, you know, your first day, you're kind of like getting to know everybody. Yeah. Day 2 is usually when everyone kind of settles in. I also think the mountains have a way of like doing that quickly.
Yes.
Because you're able to be there. You're not surrounded by your phones and other things that are grabbing your attention. You can really just like get to know the people you're with. So we had a lovely, lovely, beautiful night on Thousand Island Lake. We also finished a crossword puzzle, just something random that we had started this other day.
We love those on intermediate trips.
We have this funny thing too that on these trips, I think it started last year, where we started coining like 4 p.m. broth o'clock.
Yeah.
And that's just stuck now because those women last year, we would always drink broth around 4 p.m. because we were trying to like wait till 5 at least to have dinner because, you know, you go to bed quite early on these trips.
Yeah.
So we started getting everyone on board with broth o'clock. So we would like, when we get into camp, like Kellie said, we went and swam, we hung out, we talked, did some walks. 4 p.m. rolls around, we start rolling out the broth. We have like usually a we call it a camp kitchen, but it's just an area we all meet and we eat together, and like it's like family dinner. And we'll start with our broths or whatever. Not everyone has broth, but like a lot of us do. And then we'll have dinners, and then we have conversation basically until bed, and people start slowly going to bed around 7 or 8 p.m.
Yeah, if you don't know about broth in the backcountry, take packets of broth, whether it's like those individual packets of bone broth you can get, or our favorite is Aunt Millie's. They're all vegan, and
Millie's tea broths or
yeah,
something.
they're like
Broth
tea
packets.
bags. And they're all vegetable based. But it's nice to have a savory hot drink and not just rely on things like hot chocolate
and it's
or
really
teas.
Hydrating for your body too.
Yes.
And especially at altitude, it can be really important.
And the bone broths typically have an insane amount of protein too.
Yeah,
so they're great
good.
recovery drinks at night for electrolytes and sometimes protein. And sometimes on the trail, like the packaged food that you can get, like snacks and drinks, so much of it is like sweet.
Yeah.
So we always warn clients like, hey, you really like getting sweet stuff on the trail is going to be easy, but try to get in some salty things like jerkies, broths, crackers. So that's a really overlooked thing in the meal plan. And then people get really... Some people love all the sugar, but some people get really tired of it. So don't overlook salty stuff in your snacks and even your drinks.
I'm a big fan of a block of Parmesan cheese.
Oh,
it's like my favorite thing to bring in the backcountry.
Yes, if you don't know, hard cheese holds up really well. Parmesan especially.
In like where we're at, where it gets cold at night. Like it's not sweltering hot all day, you know?
Yeah, I did have my cheese in the top of my pack the first day,
melty.
And it got a little melty, and I was a little worried, but then... It had an Alpine night and it turned out fine. But I kept it in the bear can after that to keep it a little cooler.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd see a few of us just gnawing on blocks of cheese at camp.
So good. It's like backcountry charcuterie.
Yeah. So day 3.
Yeah. So that was day 2, a long roundabout description of day 2. Day 3, we went from Thousand Island Lake, and then we went past some other really epic lakes like Garnet and Ruby, which are classically
Emerald.
along the JMT. Yeah, Emerald.
Tons of waterfalls.
And this is where our original plan was to backpack all the way up to Adiza Lake. Adiza, I don't know, however you say it. I think I usually say Adiza. But Sonia started saying Adiza, so then I got it in my head that it's Adiza. But Adiza Lake has a nice little group or like campground area you can camp at. So we were originally going to camp there, but then we had some people like were kind of coming off some injuries, and we were looking at the map. We were like, let's make a tiny pivot to our original plan. Yeah. So we decided to, I forget what the trailhead it was like Shadow Creek. We decided to backpack down to Shadow Creek. And it was kind of at the junction of where the JMT is and hiking up to Adiza Lake. And we were like, well, if we can find a good group camp spot near here, then we'll camp near here. And we did. And so we set up camp. And then we kind of had like, if anybody wants to stick around camp and just chill, that's fine. And then the rest of us will do a day hike with like light packs up to Adiza and Iceberg Lake, which are up there.
Yeah, and it was about 6 miles from Thousand Island to Shadow Creek.
Yeah.
And minimal gain. It was like 700 feet of gain. I think we had a lot more descent that day.
It was probably even on descent, and because it was up, down, all the way.
And then from our camp to like Iceberg and back... It was another like 5.6 miles, but it was also like 800 feet of gain in that one little section.
Yeah. So a big group of us, like a few people decided to just chill at camp, and it sounds like they had a lovely time. They said they just like hung out at the creek and rested.
They swam. There was a little waterfall and creek over there. And one of our clients said her favorite part of the trip, we did like the rosebud and thorn. It was that camp day. She was getting to relax, and she said she really loved listening to the wind in the pines. So those folks, I think 3 of them stayed back at base camp, and they just had a super duper relaxing, rejuvenating time, while the rest of us were on a grueling uphill to Iceberg Lake.
It's like 2.5 miles to Iceberg Lake. Iceberg Lake. So if you've ever been to Adiza, she's beautiful. She's a beautiful lake.
She's an icon.
But also another quite beautiful treat is Iceberg Lake, which is just above Adiza. So we hiked to Adiza, and that part of the hike was actually
easy,
quite chill.
Yeah,
but then
mostly flat.
Most of the elevation gain, or at least I think it was like 300 feet to Adiza from where we were, but then 1 mile and 500 feet of gain to Iceberg.
Yeah, and you get
really
to
steep.
Adiza, and then you look up and there are people coming down from Iceberg, and we're like,
But I was like, I had been there before with a friend. I had day hiked out there before, and I remember Iceberg being so special. But I was having a lot of doubts in the moment. I was like, oh gosh, I'm making my clients hike up this really steep thing, and I hope it lives up to what I remember.
Please don't be like Wall Lake.
I know. Well, I don't know if I'd ever seen Wall Lake, but I was like, I remember this being like one of my favorite spots.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that was also like 5 or 6 years ago.
It was hopeful that the lake was full, because there was a creek that fed from Iceberg down into Adiza.
Yeah.
And it had beautiful cascading waterfalls. So we're like, okay, there's probably water up there.
So yeah, we did that steep hike up, and I think it was beautiful still, even though it was steep. There's like wildflowers everywhere.
That meadows of wild. I mean, there were so many Indian paintbrushes that we saw. I think honestly, even though it was probably, I don't think it was as challenging as day one, but it was challenging, and it turned it into like an 11-mile day for the clients that went. But I think that was my favorite day.
Yeah.
Iceberg was so rewarding.
Iceberg was beautiful. It did live up to the hype. Everyone
went swimming
like
up
most
there.
Everyone went in. I actually don't think I got in.
I think that was the coldest. I mean,
it definitely was. We're up higher. I think,
there was snow like right on the
It's
bank
Iceberg
of it.
Lake.
Yes.
It's aptly named.
Yeah, but
it's really pretty.
Gorgeous. It was absolutely worth it.
It's just unique compared to some of the other ones. It's got these like this rock just like cascading into the water, and I don't know. It's just really unique and pretty, and there's not that many people there.
And it also had a nice little lizard rock for us to like get out and warm up on.
So yeah, like Kellie said, for those who did the day hike, it was about a 10-ish mile day, but with less heavy packs for the whole time. So that was nice. I actually think I was like most fatigued that day. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I was
could have been the 11 miles.
the 11 miles, but that doesn't usually phase me. And I was carrying an extra bear can.
Yeah.
So maybe was feeling it a little bit, and it was a little bit hot.
Yeah. And we were late for broth o'clock that day.
I think I was maybe a little hangry. I think that's what it was. But it was still a great day. But I just remember rolling like that last mile into camp after we turned around from Iceberg Lake.
Yeah.
I was like, why does this mile feel like 12 miles? Like,
man, it's always the last mile or two where you're just like, I just want to be there.
Yeah, but then the evening was nice. That was my least favorite campground, though, that we had.
Oh, it got
really busy.
Yeah.
It was Saturday, though.
And I think we were so close to another trailhead. You were saying that it was like another 7 miles to the nearest trailhead that people could come in. So I think that there was a misconception that our group was not a group together.
Just random people.
So then like people...
We started like setting up camp in the middle of our group.
And
we were like, well... It was also late when a lot of people rolled in, and I was like, they're probably just tired.
Yeah. There were some people, too. There was like a big rock outcrop.
And we don't own the spot, so it's like, of course we're going to share, but...
But then it was busy, and everyone was pretty respectful, except there were some people that were on a rock above the camp, and they were loud
really
until like 10:30 or 11 at night. And their voices just carried really easily because they were above everyone. They had like an acoustic guitar or something, though, and they were like playing, so...
There was also like a random couple that like literally settled into the middle of our camp that was like having a lover's quarrel when they rolled in, and we were just like giggly like group of like big group. We were like sorry, but that was okay. It was fine. It was just my least favorite group campground, all of them, because of all the people that came in. But it makes sense. I was just really surprised because I think when we got it, I was like, this isn't the best campground, so I doubt people will come here. But now I think it's just like a very good point for people to like stop at.
I think people
and
probably
it was
just
the
saw
weekend.
us. Yeah, they saw us too, and they were like, oh, this is the group campground.
Anyways, so that was day 3
of hiking.
Yeah. And then day 4, we went from that campground at Shadow Creek. And then, day 4 was also probably one of our more challenging days. We had, how many miles did that end up being? About 6?
7.8.
Oh, yeah. It was supposed to be about 6, but then I made a little tiny mistake and hiked past the trailhead we were supposed to like turn on.
That was like only a half a mile.
I know.
Though.
But you know, it still added. I think it was 6.5 miles and it ended up being 7 because of that little like, oops, I missed the wrong turn because I was in conversation.
Yeah.
But my clients were very sweet about it. They were like, yeah, more miles. Everyone was very forgiving of me. So bless you all. So 7-ish miles. And it was downhill at first, but it ended in uphill. And that uphill was like...
steep.
It was steep. And it was about 1,800 feet of uphill.
Yep.
But it was beautiful, like, hiking down that, like, canyon-y area, seeing all the waterfalls. And then even the steep part, even though it was, like, quite steep, wasn't my favorite trail. But there were things to appreciate about it.
Yeah.
Like, it was shaded for most of it.
Yes.
I don't remember the name of the trail. Was it Shadow Creek Trail or
We
something?
went from Shadow Creek to Clark Lakes, but I can't remember the
Maybe
specific
it was Clark
trail.
Lake Trail or something. I don't know.
And it had wildflowers that were taller than me.
There was
right?
wildflowers. It was shaded, which was super nice because it was really hot. And then also at a certain point, you could see almost like where we had started, where we went. You could kind of see like the full big picture of like our entire trip, which was kind of cool to point out to everyone. I'm like, and we started over there at the beginning of the day, and then we went around this way, and then there's Thousand Island Peak and Banner Peak, or not Thousand Island Peak, Thousand Island Lake, Banner Peak, and then now we're here. So it was cool to be able to give that perspective.
Yeah, and we were doing another pass. We were going up to Agnew Pass. That was right near Summit Lake and Clark Lakes. And at lunch, right before that big uphill, we
had
stopped,
like one little final uphill.
And we, again, found another little waterfall with like deep swimming pool. It was this group of clients probably was the most aquatic.
Yes, they loved
amphibious.
an Alpine fit. Anytime you saw water, they were like, let's get in.
You couldn't keep them out of it.
No.
And so I went down with some of them, and there was this big, beautiful waterfall and swimming pool, and we had one client that loved jumping into water, and I would be like, let me check the depth first, but I got to lay in that waterfall and like wash my hair and have a little shower, which was really, really nice, really rejuvenating.
It was funny because I actually didn't go over to that waterfall. I ended up staying helping somebody with their Garmin they wanted to look at, and then helping somebody else with a blister or something. But I could hear you guys giggling so loud. It sounded like they were at a water park. They were all like, like just constantly. And we were like, what's going on over there?
And again, it's women of all ages. So we've got like 23-year-olds to 73-year-olds giggling in water.
That's great.
But yeah, you could not, sometimes you had to be careful. We're like, okay, we only have like this much time. You could not get in the water.
I think we took like an 1.5-hour lunch break, but it was fine. We only had 7 miles that day, so it's plenty of time to like take longer breaks. And then we just did the steep climb to the top. Again, I didn't think it was that bad, but it's just definitely a calf burner.
Everyone did great though. I feel like we really stuck together as a full group, because sometimes we get really stretched out throughout the day. But on that uphill, we were all pretty close together. So that was really impressive. But that was like our big push to get out, like, from the lower spots. To get to Clark Lakes and Summit Lake.
So then we crested that. We got to Agnew Pass, and there's a little lake at the very top called Summit Lake, which was pretty.
So cute.
And it was really close to where we were going to camp. We camped at Clark Lakes. We found a little group site. It wasn't like the best group site. but it worked for us.
Yeah, and that lake was different because all the lakes we had been at before had like really rocky shorelines.
More Alpine looking, yeah.
And so that one,
like mossy.
Yeah, we didn't swim in that one because it felt, honestly, it felt more like a lake back home in the Midwest where it had like plant life growing in it, which isn't all that common for those high Alpine lakes.
It was just really grassy and like bushy. And
yes, and it didn't have any lizard rocks
there wasn't
to
a really
lay on.
easy way to enter it either.
Yeah, so it was fine for filtering.
We went up to Summit Lake instead.
Which was like less than a quarter mile, I think. And we went swimming there. And
that was our like final Alpine swim. A lot of people were like not going to do it at first because they had taken the dip at lunch.
Yeah.
But then we were like, no, fuck it.
Yeah.
It's our last lake.
So many of us wanted to go in with like our sun shirts and whatnot on because they smelled so bad. So we were like, okay, even if we're not wanting it to be like in a swimming mood, we do want to wash our clothes.
Yeah.
So
it took a while though. It was windy up there. So a lot of us were negotiating. Do I want to get in? Because when you get out, it's quite cold with the wind.
Yeah.
But somebody kickstarted it and then like it cascaded into almost everybody getting in.
Well, then I think too, like the few nights before when we were at Thousand Island Lakes, you got in with a couple clients and all of you were the type like not to dunk yourselves in immediately. Like some of us just got in and dove right in.
I slow burn into the water.
And you convinced them. You're like, okay, you are women that go in the water on 1, 2, 3. And so Allison's in the middle, and there's 2 clients, one on either side of her. And Allison counts 1, 2, 3, and these clients dive in, not like diving off of anything, but they like dunk themselves on 3. And Allison just like squats so that her shoulders get in the water and not her head.
I don't like my hair being wet.
But then when
it takes so long to dry.
Yeah, and then when we were at Summit Lake, and some of the clients were coming up and they were hemming and hawing if they were going to jump in. One of them said, I'm a woman that goes on 1, 2, 3. So like that really stuck with her on getting into the lakes.
Yeah. So they were great. I'm so slow getting in. Yeah. I'll get in, but it takes a lot of negotiating with my primal brain.
Yeah. And then it was a pretty chill night at camp. We like to ask folks like...
Yeah, this was our last night.
Yeah. And we like to open up conversations. And it always sounds corny when we introduce it. We do the rose, thorn, bud, which is like a highlight, a low light, and like a growth opportunity.
That you learned from the experience or this time out in the mountains.
And yeah, when we say it, it always sounds like some corny icebreaker, but you get like the most beautiful things out of it.
It's also like there's some people who talk a lot. Mm-hmm. And there's some people, not that they're shy, but they're just like, they like to listen. Mm-hmm. And this gives everybody a chance to also share, which is super nice.
And we also gave our youngest client the life advice.
Oh yeah, that's when we did the 2 pieces of advice that everyone would give her.
So everyone gave her advice, and that even like really choked some people up.
Yeah.
And then we got into the rose, thorn, bud, and it was going like pretty smooth, and I think I was the 4th person, and I'm like a certified crybaby, so right off the bat I was like, okay guys, I'm gonna cry. And then my rose was being trusted for people to be vulnerable with us, whether it was like a hard uphill or a conversation about something they were going through, or digging a cat hole 50 feet from strangers on the internet.
Yeah.
So that's always my favorite. I'm always so blessed to like hold that with clients.
Yeah. It was great to like listen to everyone's takeaways and growth opportunities. And, one of the things that they said, which I always forget to think about because we get to know each other so well over the summer with our coaching program. But essentially all these women are like strangers to one another and strangers on the internet. And some of them were joking how like their families were like, so where did you meet these women that you're going on this trip with? They're like,
are you sure about
they're
that?
From the internet.
We even
and you're
heard
spending
that.
5 days. Several people said that to us.
We even heard that. I heard it on the trailhead when we were out, and there were 3 women that had camped near us, I think, at that busy campground near Shadow Creek. And they saw us coming off the trail, and they're like, oh, that's that big group that all met on the internet.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. And I think we don't come across as like women who don't know each other, because we just get to know each other so quickly through the program and then the experience in the mountains. And I think people, a lot of times women have hesitations around, one, meeting strangers on the internet, of course, like, oh, what did I just sign myself up for? But even sometimes women have this, like, I don't know, I think adult women often, not everyone obviously, have trouble meeting and connecting with other women. So sometimes there's that hesitation of like, what's it going to be like to be out with a bunch of women? Like, do I need to be worried? Like, will there be, I don't know, sometimes there's this assumption that like women can be mean or like hard to get along with. I don't know. That's like a stereotype sometimes that can come, especially with people you don't know. It feels like a risk. But we've just never had that experience in our groups. And I think people are actually quite surprised when they come on our trip how well they get along with everybody and how supported they feel.
And we give them lots of opportunities to like talk and get to know one another ahead of the trip, whether it's the weekly coaching call that we have, or we have like internet forums that we're talking on the whole time.
Yeah.
And some of them meet up beforehand.
That's
like
true.
Some of the clients were doing some of their training hikes together. So they got, they're in the same area. But this group was the quickest to be talking about reunion trips, because we didn't even do the trip and they were on Slack talking about,
when's our
next one together. And so
they get like they come as strangers, but they leave with like 11 besties.
Yeah, and adventure friends all over.
All over the U.S.
This was the first time we had only U.S. students. In the past, we've had Canadian students.
Usually we do have quite a few Canadian students.
And and a lot of what came up in that Rose Thorn Bud was community.
Yeah.
And it was really moving listening to some people, because they felt so alone in being outdoorsy or finding outdoorsy women. Or there's the misconception that we had one person even say when they were talking about internet strangers that someone asked her, "There's no men going on the trip? Are you sure you wouldn't feel safer if a man came out with you?"
So silly.
And when I think there was only like
oops. Sorry guys, I turned on my blinkers.
I think those 3 women that like made the comment at the trailhead about strangers on the internet, those were like the only women I saw together. But otherwise,
that's abnormal though. I do feel like I see a lot of
there's like, it was either
out there.
Maybe a solo woman, but most of the people we saw, if it was a woman, they would be with a man, or it'd be like multiple men in a group. So don't think that you need a man to take you into the backcountry. You can go solo or find a bunch of cool women on the internet to go with.
It's just funny that they think like you going with a group of women would somehow be safer to go with a dude. Like, that's so silly to me.
Yeah.
But it is something that people think sometimes in certain areas, and like maybe depending on how they grew up or like the worldview that they have. But that's something we're always combating, like in our programs, and like teaching you how you can be leaders and you can go out as groups or solo and things like that, whatever. So that was interesting.
And some of us were getting up at the middle of the night that night and the nights before to look at the stars. Some people were leaving their flies off, and somebody even cowboy camped.
We had great weather.
Yeah, it was like perfect weather.
Yeah.
So,
even the beginner group trip had slightly better weather than the intermediate, just from a coolness perspective, but we didn't have any mosquitoes really. I mean, some, but not bad. And in general the weather was nice, so we were able to like leave our flies off and stuff. Tents.
Gorgeous trip.
But I love ending our time with those like discussions, and everyone stayed up super late that night. We were like, it was like dark. I was like, okay, I need to go pee and stuff before it gets super dark.
Chilly.
And then our final day was just our hike out day.
All downhill.
Yeah. And it was basically almost 3,000 feet of downhill. And 5 miles. So that provides its own challenge, because sometimes people actually, their knees and legs hurt more with the downhill.
Downhill is like a controlled strength. Like, it's not, uphill is cardio. So it's going to get your heart rate and your breathing up, which people find challenging, and maybe burn your glutes and like your big thigh muscles. But going downhill is a lot of work on like your knees and your calves and like your shoulders when you're using your trekking poles. So the middle group took that one pretty slow. And actually we got started at different times because
some people were doing some yoga,
acro yoga,
late yoga with our guide partner Sonia that goes with us. She's like a badass acro yoga. And some of them were doing some stuff with her.
Yes.
And then the other group was cold because it was quite cold, and we were like, well, we can get started, like, and we'll just meet everyone else back down at the trailhead because it was a short downhill day.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had 2-ish groups. Sort of paces.
It was like downhill on Scree for a lot of it too. So that was like,
we got to go through an area called the Spooky Meadow.
Oh, I want somebody to like make a cutout of maybe like the Headless Horseman out of like plywood or something and paint it, and then there. Like hide it down in there somewhere. And people can like move it around.
I thought it was kind of spooky, like with the wind blowing through those like tall meadowy bushes and stuff.
Gorgeous.
Well, yeah, spooky, gorgeous, but
spooky, gorgeous.
But yeah, I mean it actually wasn't the worst downhill I've ever done.
It was just downhill forever. It was like 5 miles of downhill.
Yeah.
It was just long. And you had to like just take it carefully over the scree, and
we just went slow.
Like I said,
steady.
The controlled strength, because your legs just get tired by the end of it because you're just very carefully stepping down.
All your movements.
Yeah, and we came down on the other side of
We reconnected. It was a loop.
Yeah, so we got to see like the other lakes from the other side. So we got to see Gem Lake from the other side and then connect down.
And the like very last bit was quite hot. It was just middle of the day and the sun, it was exposed, so
and I
warm.
Was really proud of one of our clients. We were going down and some folks were coming up and they were asking about our route, and we were telling them about some of the places we camped. And these 2 men got out their map, and one of our clients was like showing them things on the map that we had done in our route. And so that was just like a proud coach moment where I was like, yes. And Sonia, our other guide, came up behind her when that was happening, and we were both just like beaming ear to ear because we were so proud of our clients.
Just taking charge.
Yes. Yeah.
But then, we all made it to the trailhead, and we waited for the whole group to get there. And then how we usually like to end our trips is pretty much everyone will go out to lunch together, and we just do like a final celebratory meal.
Yeah, the majority of us got burgers.
Yeah, we went to Mammoth Brewery this time because we were based out of Mammoth for these trips. And yeah, just had food and drinks and laughed, and then everyone just kind of has their different travel plans and goes on their way. Before we like kind of get close to wrapping up this, I'm curious, like from your perspective, what was like your favorite and least favorite part?
Oh,
what was your rose, thorn, and bud?
As far as like the hiking parts, I think the iceberg was definitely a rose. But like I said, my rose almost every time is being vulnerable with the clients, and the clients trusting us to be vulnerable, because it's not just a backpacking trip, right? We have this coaching aspect to it of like reinvention and reevaluating things in your life or your own identity. And so we get really raw conversations, and even from people who expressed like, I have a really hard time being vulnerable, I don't talk about my feelings that often. Like some of those people really like cracked themselves open, and it's just such an honor to be trusted to hold that. Now I'm getting like choked up on it already. My thorn was I make my own meals, and I was like batch making meals because I had another trip before this. And I had a lot of red lentil chili that also had a lot of other beans in it. So early on, I had like GI. It wasn't like bad GI distress, but it was like uncomfortable, and I was like farting a lot. So sorry to Allison because we shared a tent.
I told her I didn't notice, like at least sound wise. I guess I just assumed it was me. I was like, man, I I was like, well, I've been backpacking for 2 weeks. Like my sleeping bag smells like Fritos.
Yeah. But one of our most famous lines is from Katie, who used to be on our team, and she did the beginner trips with Allison. And she said, the smell of the tent is a team effort. So
true.
So that's like, if you're ever scared about being stinky on the trail with people, like sometimes you're just in your own stink. You don't even notice other people's
No, it's
stink.
true. I didn't notice until you said something.
Yeah. And then my bud for growth is like realizing I'm capable of bigger stuff. And so this year I've kind of been, I think we're kind of similar goal wise, where I want to play bigger. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about wanting to expand your capacities to do bigger things. So these trips always show me, and I think clients, that we're just, and especially since I'm from the Midwest, right? And I think a lot of us have imposter syndrome, or we feel like we don't fit into these Alpine types things because we have flat land. And we have tons of clients that come from flat areas, and they do incredible on these trips because they really commit to our training plan. But every time I come and do these trips and I hear from other women and I spend time with you, it just makes me think, what's the next level? Like, what can I step up to? Mm-hmm. Because I know I can do hard things.
Yeah.
And what were yours? Oh, unless you have some comments on it.
Oh, no. I guess my bud will kind of go into your comments. My favorite part of the trip, I'm trying to remember what I said. I mean, like, for me, it's always just like really getting to see a group like connect mm-hmm. and snap in together and like find their groove. I always am just so happy to like see that come together
and to find that community that they wanted to at the beginning of this.
And I really loved, it's really hard to pick a highlight because I loved so much of it, like, mm-hmm. and just meeting everyone in real life. And some of these people I've known virtually for a while, like some of them are backpacking badass students that eventually joined this program. Yeah. Or they're clients like Heather that we've known since the very beginning. Like Heather was one of my very first students in the Backpacking Badass program when I first opened it in like 2019. And so getting to reconnect with people mm-hmm. that I've known for a long time, that's just really like special for me. And also getting to know Sonia every year a little bit better is lovely. And I don't know. I love the Sierras. I really don't think there's a bad part we've ever been to, but this area was particularly special. So I loved Thousand Island Lake. Of course, I loved Adiza and Iceberg. That's why I wanted to take you guys there. So yeah, I like all of it. All of that was a highlight for me. Least favorite part was we had a sleeping pad mishap with one of the clients. Sleeping pad that they brought had a hole in it, and we found that out at the group campsite before we went out, so we gave her a rental sleeping pad, but then that wasn't tested before we went out, and that ended up having a hole in it too, which we never ended up finding where it was coming from. But I'm like wanted her to want her to have a better night's sleep than me, so I did have a pad still. Like we had those foam. Me and Kellie, I cut my Z-Lite foam pad in half. So together, I had given Kellie the other half pad, and I used the half pad to sit on a lot of times. Mm-hmm. So I slept on that, which is fine. And it was insulating and stuff. But it's just not as comfortable. Like, I'm a side sleeper, so...
I'd like hear every couple of hours, like...
I would blow up that pad, the one that had the hole in it, because I just swapped with my client. I gave her my blow-up pad. And I was using the foam pads, but then sometimes I would blow up the little one that came because it would last for 30 minutes. And sometimes it was easier for me to fall asleep on it with it blown up. And then I could fall asleep really quickly. And then I would get to at least, 3 or 4 in the morning before I would wake up with it. But
she wouldn't swap on and off with me.
No, I was like, this is my mission. I'm intended to have this experience. But yeah, I would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and be like, I'm gonna re-blow it up and try to fall asleep again.
Yeah, and your joke about going back to it.
I told Kellie the third day, I was like, this sleeping pad is like a toxic relationship that I keep coming back to and keeping
he's good for a cuddle.
He's fine. He's really a great guy, and then lets me down every time. But anyways, that kind of leads into my bud though. I was I've been talking a lot with our clients, and by the time this airs, it might be something I have done podcasts on already, because I might save this podcast for when we get close to like opening up our Adventurous Reinvention Experience again. But so you might have heard me talk about some of this already, but if you haven't, I've been talking to a lot of my clients that I feel like I've been operating on like not a bad, like none of this is bad. It's just me like having reflections about myself, like a certain capacity and energetic level. And I'm really just curious about what it would be like to step into like a higher energetic capacity. And I think this is just better explained with examples. It's like our brain often, our brain seeks comfort. It seeks the easy thing. It seeks all these things just primally, like that's just how we're wired. Seek comfort, avoid pain, and what's the other one? Like,
it's like a path of least resistance.
That's just our normal base operations. And I'm pretty good at like overcoming some of that in my day-to-day life. But I think there's another level where I can take on some more projects that I have previously been telling myself I'm not capable of, or I'm too busy, or like too tired. And so I'm trying to rewire that story. So one thing I had been doing before this trip, starting with the beginner group trip, is I created a notes tab being like, I'm in my higher capacity season, and every day I will write down something that gives me evidence for how I'm showing up for it. And so for me, the sleeping pad was like an example of stepping into higher capacity. And you know, I helped carry some clients bear cans that had knee injuries. And so I was carrying 2 bear cans. And the beginner trip, I also mostly carried 2 bear cans and hiked clients out and then met back up with the group. So I was like writing down all these examples of like how I have that energy, and that I have examples of me having that energy, and it energizes me to have that energy, like to show up to that capacity. And then another thing that I probably will have done podcast episodes on by this point is like, one of my goals after this trip is to start training to climb a 512 outside, a lead climb a 512 outside, which will be something I've never done before. And it's going to require like a higher level of energetic capacity. So yeah, it's kind of like Kellie's, where she talked about showing up a little bit bigger. But I never want people to be like comparing themselves in a sense of like, you have to do big things for it to be worthwhile. And like,
big is subjective,
it's
right?
so subjective. For me, it's just like, I love where I'm at. I love what I've been doing. But like, I'm really curious about the version of me that maybe stops complaining so much a little bit about being tired, and finds that energy from desire, not
obligation
or burnout.
Right.
Like, it's not like it's so different. It's so hard to describe, and hopefully I will have described this better on a podcast episode prior to this. But like, there's a difference between pushing yourself to like grow into bigger goals or bigger capacity with like, you have to do this, you should do this, with this burnout energy, versus like this deep desire of like what the fuck am I possible? Like, what am I capable of doing? And like really excited about it.
Yeah. Like, it's not that you're saying, oh, I'm lazy and I need to do more. It's, wow, I'm really capable. What else can I do? And what small steps can I take to get to bigger things? Like, you don't have to like go all in and like gas to the floor on whatever steps you're taking to get to those big things. And one of the pieces of advice, I think it came up twice for that younger client, was 2 people said to enjoy the pursuit. Like, don't be so focused on where you're going and getting to, whether it's getting to camp or that goal. Yeah. And it was, I think another client had said it too.
Find the thing that you're excited about, like that light you're so driven by, like desire, and
the pursuit is almost
is just as interesting and fascinating. You're not in a hurry to get there, because you're just so in love with like the process of becoming.
I love that.
So that kind of dives into all that. So that was my bud. I got opportunities to like show up for that. And one thing I talk about with my clients all the time is like what we focus on, we create. So I try to live that example too. And for me right now is stepping away. Like, I think my brain tends to be like, the default setting a lot of times is to focus on how tired I might be. So now I'm trying to rewire it into focusing on, like how much capacity I have.
Yeah. And that was even coming up for clients, like if they would look at the stats the night before.
Yes.
And they would be getting mind drama about how hard the next day was going to be, instead of letting that go and enjoying the hike in the beautiful meadows and the wildflowers and the waterfalls and the lakes.
And I kind of like, that brings me to a thought I have about like bigger trips. And this applies to our beginner group trips too, because our beginners are coming from a place of like, a lot of them, not everybody, but a lot of them, it's their first backpacking trip.
And it's a big trip
many
for
people,
that.
It's their first time at altitude or in the mountains or doing elevation gain.
Yeah.
So even for those trips, this applies too. But I love doing trips that are just slightly out of people's comfort zones because I know people are capable of so much more than they give them credit for. And when we get to do these trips and then they see themselves complete it, it raises the bar.
Yeah.
And when you raise the bar, when you have future things come up, you're just like, you can tap into self-trust.
Yes.
So much faster. You're like, oh, I've done hard shit. Like, this is fine. I can do this.
Yeah.
So I love looking for those little opportunities of being like, showing people that they've got this, because I know that they can do it.
And I feel like every self-doubt somebody came with was laid to rest.
Yes.
Like, one of our clients came in with a knee injury. We referenced it. She did not get it on the trip.
It was before, but she was mostly better, but still cautious with it.
And she was worried about that, and she crushed it. She did amazing.
So
we had people that their bud, they talked about worrying about not fitting in and being lonely in the outdoor community because they couldn't find it yet. And a lot of them were, thanking each other for the experience, but I reminded everyone to thank themselves. This is something that I didn't learn until like a few years ago, is that these clients took a chance on themselves. It may not, they could have gotten hurt or gotten sick beforehand. They weren't sure about how they were going to feel either at altitude or on this more challenging trip. And they got themselves there through signing up, through showing up to the coaching, through showing up to their training plans, through planning all the stuff, because this is a guided trip, but we don't do everything for them. We're still like very much in the mindset of teaching you guys to feel confident in your skills. It's like a catalyzed version of the Backpacking Badass program paired with life coaching.
Yeah.
So you get access to the Backpacking Badass program, and we're doing backpacking coaching along with like the life and courage coaching. And so it really opens up a lot for clients, I think. And, one person talked about not fitting in. And like we mentioned, some of us were so different on paper. But because of it being that growth mindset, and everybody openness came in. And I think really most of the people that came in had community as a goal. Not everyone, and that's okay. But pretty much everyone on this trip was already making plans with somebody in the group, whether it was climbing or backpacking or just meeting up in the region. But every single person was making plans to do something with somebody else on the trip once they got back. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. So that's to say, if you're like doubting yourself, whether it's signing up for this trip or doing your own trips or maybe leading your friends or family out, like take the chance on yourself, because I think that you're really going to be surprised and delighted.
Yeah. Well, I think we're already like, I'm surprised. I was like, I wonder if we'll have enough to do an hour, but we've already gone over an hour. But I hope that gives you a little bit of behind the scenes, and a peek into what this experience could be like. And, I'm sure I'll add a little something to this when we air it about like how you can learn more. But I'll just say this for now, like if you want to learn more about the Adventurous Reinvention Experience, whether we're open for enrollment or not, you can always go to shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE, and that will take you to our waitlist page. Or if we're open for enrollment, we usually have it directed to like how you can sign up. So it's a really unique experience, and we love getting to meet all of our clients, and hopefully this just gave you a little taste of what it's like fresh off the trail.
Yeah, come cry with me on a mountain.
Come cry with Kellie on a mountain. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.